I'm sure you've heard the term that you can eat whatever you want and lose weight. And provided you're in a calorie deficit, yes, that's absolutely true. But it's a little bit more complex than that, because every person has a different urge towards different foods, and we all have our favourite foods and foods we like to snack on and foods that we binge on if we get hold of them. So how do you know what foods to put into your diet so that you don't binge and destroy all your diet efforts? I've constructed a little graph here. Now this is based on Stephan Guyenet's book, so you can look at that book if you want a little bit more information about it. And what we have here is we have a box of the impulse control and food reward. The 0 scale is here, which is just off camera, and then this is like 100% impulse control, and this is 100% food reward. Now what impulse control means is if you see a food, how likely you are to pick it up and eat it, and food reward is how pleasurable you find the food. So for a lot of people, ice cream is going to be at the top end of this scale, and for a lot of people, Brussels sprouts will be at the top end of this scale. So all the food we eat in the day will be somewhere on this graph. Now it's important to know where the foods you like to eat or the foods you want to eat fall, so then you can decide where they're going to go into your diet. So if you have high impulse control and lower food reward, that should form part of your everyday meals. So for me, this would be things like chicken and rice, spaghetti bolognese. It's the meals I eat every day, which I quite like eating. It's not 0 on the food reward scale, it's somewhere around here, but I have a decent amount of impulse control over them. So I can eat a sizable meal of chicken and rice, but then once I'm full, that's it, I don't want anymore, I put the fork down. So these should form your normal everyday foods here, because you have a high amount of impulse control over them and you can stop yourself eating them. Then we look at your low calorie snacks you want in the day. Now low calorie snacks form low on the impulse control because you're quite likely to eat them if you see them, but they have very little food reward. So you do like eating them, but it's not a massive driver. You're not going to overeat them. So these might be things like melons, possibly fruit, that sort of thing. Stuff that's not going to set you off on a binge, but you're probably going to eat if you see them. So you can classify those into your low calorie snacks, and they're almost safe things to eat through the day. So this is your normal everyday food safe zone. Now we all want occasionally a treat, but what do we have for our treat that we're not going to destroy our diet with? So that would be in the safe cheat zone over here. So we have a decent amount of impulse control over it, but also the food reward is high. So an example for me would be Nando's, because I quite like eating Nando's. It's quite a nice meal for me, and I can go in there, eat a sizable meal of it, and I get a lot of pleasure from eating the food. But once it's done, it's done. I don't really want to eat tons more of it, so I have a decent amount of impulse control. Conversely, if I was to sit down for say a meal of ice cream and Pringles, that would be right here in the danger zone, because I find the food very pleasurable, but I also have very low impulse control over it. So this is the foods you really want to avoid having. So for whatever for you is your trigger that sets you off on a massive binge, put this in your danger zone and take it out of your diet. Because although I want to encourage things like flexible eating and everything else, there's no point having flexible eating if you're face down into a trough of your favourite food and destroying your diet efforts. So this should be off limits all the time, and the safe cheat zone should be something you do every now and again to go out with your mates or whatever. Now if you follow that and put the foods you want in the day into these zones, you should find that you can avoid the danger zone foods quite quickly, because you'll know they're coming, you'll know that fits into that block for you, and it allows you a little bit more control over your diet while having the flexibility to eat the other things that you want and not completely destroy your diet in the process.